Hey guys, if you're shopping for knives and gear, make sure you check out the description of the video you're watching right now for a link to my Amazon store where I've compiled some of the very best items available, including some of my own personal recommendations. Thanks! What's going on, YouTube? Metal Complex here, and today I've got a very interesting knife review / knife overview to share with you guys. This is the Protech Ferrum Forge Mordax button lock, but in titanium. These are very rare. There were only 50 of them ever made, and I am handling this thanks to my good buddy at herms.things on Instagram. So give him a follow. It's because of people like him that I'm able to bring you guys daily knife content. It's also because of my generous patrons. So thank you so much, patrons, for supporting me during this time. If you'd like to check out my Patreon, there's a link down in the description. You can take a look if you'd like to. The support would mean the world to me. Anyways, guys, this knife is no longer available, and I feel compelled to tell you that at the very beginning of the review. This is not something that you can get unless you hunt it out on the secondary market. Expect prices to be high. The price on this guy is high to begin with, or it was when they were brand new, so just wanted to make sure that you guys kind of understood there before we got going. Anyways, let's go ahead and get an overall measurement here. From tip to scale, it's coming in, what I'm assuming is exactly the same length as the aluminum one. Now, originally, the Mordax was made by Ferrum Forge. I believe first it was a custom, then it was made into a mid-tech, and then Ferrum Forge and Protech collaborated to create the button lock Mordax that was very popular. What was it, like a year ago? I had one, I gave it away on the channel. Those were aluminum frames. They are made in the United States, both the aluminum ones and these right here. And then I remember thinking, wow, this would be really great in titanium. Well, it turns out they actually did make a few. The overall length is 8.1 inches, blade length coming in at 3.5 inches, and cutting edge coming in just shy of 3.25, thanks to that generous forward choil. Let's go ahead and do some size comparisons here up against the Ontario Rat Model 1. Rat 1 coming in at 8.6 inches overall. How about up against the Spyderco PM2? Spyderco PM2 coming in at 8.3 inches overall. How about up against the Benchmade Griptilian, or in this case, the Ritter Hogue? Ritter Hogue is coming in at 8 inches. Actually, it's almost 8.1 inches overall. This is a very Ritter Hogue or Benchmade Griptilian sized knife. Last but not least, the Spyderco Para 3. Spyderco Para 3 coming in at 7.25 inches overall. How's the action on this guy? This guy has got the whole fidget factor thing maxed out. The combination of the button lock, the bearings, the properly tuned detent, you can do it all day. But to add to the satisfaction of the fidget factor, it's in titanium. Exactly how that adds to it, I don't know. Titanium has this odd sort of cool to the touch, sort of nice, luxurious feeling to it. They finished it very well. It's nicely rounded off. Perhaps it's the reverberation, the sound that it makes that's a little bit different than the slightly hollow sound of aluminum that adds to it. Does it add, you know, almost double the price? No, but we'll talk about that in price. But my goodness, does it feel good. It is extremely operational, completely and totally falls shut. Yeah, absolutely, the action is wonderful. That is to be expected from both Ferrum Forge and Protech, even though Protech is notorious for making automatic knives. It's wonderful. Let's go ahead and do the hardboard check. Get out my handy-dandy WIA magnetic driver and WIA bit selector, two items that are extremely inexpensive and very recommendable for everybody. You can find them down in the Amazon store that I reference at the beginning of every video. Just pull up in the store and scroll down until you see knife maintenance. I'm going to guess that the pivot is T8, just like the aluminum one. Let's go ahead and check that here real quick. And yep, that is the case. And then back here on this side, we have titanium screws that I am sure are, well, we might as well check them here with the same bit. We're still on the T8 bit. I started to take it out there. Be careful so we don't. Ooh, those are T8. Nice. I couldn't remember if the aluminum one also had T8, but that's great. These knives are going to be fairly easy to take apart, though I'll admit I have never taken apart a button lock. I've never heard anything about them being overly complicated, but it's always nice when the hardware is all exactly the same size. Let's go ahead and talk about carry profile. Thickness up against the Spyderco Para 3. You can see there the chamfers are a little bit different, or chamfers, however you want me to say that. It's going to be hard to repeatedly correct myself. Little teeny tiny bit thicker, possibly exactly the same thickness as the Para 3 in terms of overall profile. We are looking at not quite as tall versus the Para 3 or PM2. I use them as a comparison because they're both a little bit awkward and nobody ever complains about them. Overall body length is a little longer than the Para 3, a little shorter than the PM2. This one has a flipper tab. If you carry other stuff in your knife pocket, it might bother you. If you don't, that flipper tab will not bother you. Let's go ahead and weigh it. We are looking at 2 pieces of completely unmilled titanium on the inside. Might help if I've got that open. Solid titanium, so there's a little bit of excess weight there versus the original, the aluminum button lock Mordax. The original Mordax is actually much bigger and much thicker. 122 thousandths, I guess, on the blade. Blade's not overly massive. Overall weight of this guy, I'm going to guess 4.5 ounces. Ooh, I was off by half an ounce. 5.04 ounces. Let's go again. 5.04 ounces. So this is a little bit heavier than some people like to carry. It's right in my sweet spot. I like titanium. I expect that. They probably could have lightened it up by half an ounce if they milled it. I don't really care. If you're one of those people who likes to carry the Para 3 lightweight or bug out, this is going to be really heavy to you. If you like a full-size knife and you're used to 4.5, 5 ounces, it might be in there for you. The nice thing is that the carry profile all the way around is very, very friendly. So at worst, you're going to be dealing with some excess weight in your pocket. If you wear skinny jeans, if you wear light pant material, sweatpants, if you wear, athletic shorts, you're probably not going to like this. You're probably also not going to feel comfortable having this in dress pants. If you wear regular pants, jeans, right, you're just going about your day doing regular stuff and you don't work at a, in a really uppity office or anything like that, you'll probably be okay. Did we go over everything? I was trying to get that out quicker than I normally do. Let's go ahead and talk about the anatomy of this guy. It's basically the exact same thing as the aluminum Mordax, except it is much more polished. So before I forget about this, there was an option when these were available to have the final edge done by Mike Emler, who is a good friend of the crew at Ferrum Forge. And it's important to remember that these are made by Protech in the USA. The final finishings on these versions were done by Ferrum Forge. So there's a little bit of extra handwork that goes into these depending on what options you chose. I would imagine potentially there were probably a few options for hardware color. There were probably a few different options for the blade finish. In this case, we have satin flats and a sort of concrete or more matte tumble finish like the handle scales on the bevel. And then the final edge, this was another option. Was one that could be done by Mike Emler, and that is what you're looking at here. I believe it was probably an extra 35. Looking at, that has been an option on some other knives through Ferrum Forge. So this particular one, for anybody wondering, I think totaled out at $550. I'm going to guess that these were available between the range of $450 and $550-ish, depending on what your options were. If there were super extravagant versions of this available that were more expensive, I am unaware of them. But that kind of all goes out the window because rest assured, if you see this on the secondary market, the prices, if we're lucky, they're going to be similar. But this seems like a knife that people will, jump on. And don't be surprised if you see this hiked way up. That the secondary market does crazy things. It's completely unpredictable. I just wanted to let you guys know what Herm's things told me. So that's roughly where they were. Much like the original, as you saw there, just about caught my pinky. We've got the hardware all in the same place, the button lock in the exact same place. Truthfully, the button lock feels about the same. It's very, there's no grind on the button push. It just slips right in and kicks right back out. You kind of have that same feeling, but the sound is a little bit different. I would imagine just because titanium reverberates a little bit differently than aluminum. It's very pleasant. This is exactly what I was looking for. When I handled the original Mordax, I liked it. The original button lock Mordax, I was like, this is great. It makes me really want titanium because I love the design. Speaking of the design, you guys know I like a good, simple aesthetic flow. This knife definitely has the aesthetic flow thing down. Very simple handle, very simple drop point blade, and it's just nice. It's something that I very much appreciate. It's what drew me to the original Mordax in the first place, even though I never actually got my hands on that. That's something I've always lusted after. Fantastic. I really like the finish on the titanium. Like I said, it's sort of subdued, very non-reflective, but it's got that nice even scratch pattern. It looks good. This has all been nicely chamfered all the way around. No issues there. Flipper tab is fantastic and is actually shaped correctly. It's exactly the opposite of a Hinderer XM18, which I'll be able to show you guys if I can find the one that was sitting. Well, we'll just use... Where did that one go? Let's just use the Skinner that's sitting right here. Just want to show you that the flipper tab in this case does work as the finger guard. It's just exactly the opposite direction of a Hinderer XM18, right? You can see there, that makes this area much easier to engage, and then there's no harsh landing zone. This is always the thing that people complain about on hinderers, even though the skinny isn't nearly as bad, but Ferrum Forge seems to have that right on their models. Now, what it does is it sort of hooks your finger and really traps you in right here, so the forward choil isn't quite as comfortable. You can still engage it. It's a single knuckle choil, but it's nice. You know, you're not going to really want to bear down on it because now that tip is going up, it's sort of digging into your finger a little bit, but it's fine. I would much rather that be the case and be able to engage this and flip it over and over and over again, or at least effectively the very first time, without having to deal with that poke there. So I really appreciate that. You can see here on this one, he's opted for, I'm assuming this was an option, I might be incorrect about this, satin flats, and then the same finish on the bevel of the blade as the titanium scales right here. This has all been knocked down. There's no sharp edges or anything like that. The swedge looks nice. The mirrored blade looks absolutely perfect on this guy. That's just wonderful. These knives are, I mean, thin enough behind the edge. They're definitely not what I'd call thick, but they're not what I'd call super thin either. It's kind of that sweet spot. It's making use of the durability of the extended flat on this knife, which extends about 85, maybe 90% the length of the blade. So even though this blade stock's not super thick, it does carry reasonable thickness out to the tip. And then you've got a blade that absolutely will be a fairly performance-oriented cutter. There's also nothing in the cutting path. You know, again, you're not going to be able to skin apples effectively or shave toilet paper or anything like that, but pretty much any general EDC task, and then a little bit more, considering, you know, how the blades, the geometry of the blade, you're going to be just fine. Drop point blades are always great. Got no issues there. Something else I really love about this design is the fact that the Ferrum Forge logo is just over here, and that's it. It's nice. I can't remember if the other one actually said Protech on their blade or not, but the blade on this guy is completely sterile. It's nice. The other thing that I like, and I'm not normally a fan of random blue titanium everywhere, but it's so it's just subtle, right? It's just got the little blue right there. It's got the nice sort of hammer finished blue on the backspacer. This may again have been another option here. Without seeing the original options page, I can't tell you, but this is nice. That's really, really nice. And again, we've all been super minimal hardware, right? These screws up here are for the stop pin, which actually, just to let you guys take a look here, there actually is shouldering going on back there. So that's really, really nice. The button lock or plunge lock, however you want to call that, is actually what's engaging the blade to lock it out. And then it also engages when the knife is closed. So that's nice. Some people talk about the strength of a button lock versus a frame lock or a liner lock. The truth is unless you're doing something with this knife outside of the realm of normal for what a general folding knife is meant to withstand, you're going to be just fine. I mean, there's nothing you could do to, I mean, there are plenty of things that you could do to break this knife. But again, I feel like before the button lock failed, a number of other things in the knife would fail, right? I mean, the other things would probably warp out before the button lock failed. In any case, there's nothing that I would ever use this knife for where I was going to test that. So it really doesn't matter to me, the potential strength here. We've got those two screws. We've got this screw back here. And then I believe there's a couple of hidden screws underneath. I don't know if we're going to be able to see them. You can see where the pocket clip screws go in. In any case, everything is nicely held together. Very firm, very solid, feels great. Pocket clip looks good. We've got a true deep carry clip. Well, a little bit sticks out of your pocket. But nice recessed screws. Little tiny bit of a bill. You can still get it over your pants effectively. It's still less likely to catch on things versus bills that stick up like this. Microtech Combat Trudon, can't stand that one, even though I love the knife. But yeah, fantastic clip. Very, very simple. The entire knife all the way around has an air of simplicity about it, and that's why I like it. You know, it's fun, it's cool, it's fidgety, right? It's made super well. It sounds nice. It gives me that satisfying click. There's no blade play up, down, left, or right, which is always impressive for a button lock. And then we have, this appears to be slightly, is it off center? It's hard for me to tell. Maybe ever so slightly. I'm going to guess I could just turn on that pivot a little bit and bring it back to center. That happens sometimes. You know, if you flip a knife a bajillion times like I have been with this guy, chances are you just need to pull the screw out, put some blue Loctite back in it. But not a big deal. You know, if they come off centered, obviously, for that much money, that is definitely the case. I suppose we could go ahead and just test that here real quick on camera. There's no harm in it. I'm sure Hearns Things would be, you know, somebody who would do that with his own knives. So here we go. Let's go ahead and put that bit in there real quick and just give it a slight turn and see if we've got the centering back. Yeah, that was exactly what was going on there. So That was nothing. If you guys need to correct the centering on a blade, it takes a micro turn, oftentimes on knives that have really tight tolerances and nothing more. Be careful, don't put too much torque, just a little teeny tiny bit and you're good. But yeah, the rest of the knife looks fantastic. Everything is nice, seamless. I really like the Ferrum Forge Designs logo right there. I mean, my review of this guy is pretty much the same as the aluminum version, except I like this one better because it's titanium and it looks nicer, right? The only issue here is that you can't get it anymore. So do I think the original price on this guy was worth it? It's made in the United States. It's a production knife, you know, between Ferrum Forge and Protech. Looks really, really good. I don't know that it costs that much more to put a button lock in something versus a put a button lock in a knife versus just making a frame lock or liner lock. I feel like probably the original price was a little bit high. For whatever reason, this knife feels more like a $350 knife than a $550 knife, but it sure does look good, right? What I think about the original price really doesn't matter because they're gone, right? So if they added a little bit to the fact that this was a limited edition run and, you know, whatever, you know, it's just one of those things where there's not much to say about it. But yeah, had this knife come out and it was $350 to $400, there's a good chance I would have jumped on it. $550, you know, I appreciate the extra finish work and the extra handwork that probably went into the final details of this knife, or absolutely did go into the final details of this knife, and I sure do like how the edge looks. I'm sure that was as professionally done as it looks. I just don't know if for me it would have been enough to spend that much money on it, but you know, again, it doesn't really matter. I'm sure Herms Things really appreciates this knife every single day, and it's a treasure because there are only ever 50 of them. So this is really cool. It's kind of a different type of review, you know, because it's not really a review because I can't, like, people can't just go, oh, great, I'll go buy that based on your recommendation. But this was still really fun to look at. Certainly the ultimate version of this knife. This is fantastic. I'm really happy to know that it exists, and it was really fun to get an opportunity to play with it. So thanks again, Herms Things. Anyways, guys, that's going to be pretty much it for today's overview, more or less. If you guys enjoyed this video, please leave a like. If you'd like to check out my other content, I do, of course, have lots of videos of knives that are either expensive or inexpensive that I do or don't like. So check those out. And if you enjoy all my content, go ahead and click on this metal complex logo right here and subscribe because there's definitely more coming. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and have a great day.